listening to Agape Legacy Podcast, a podcast brought to you by Agape Baptist Church. This podcast series features Guna Raman, the founding pastor of Agape Baptist Church. He will be sharing about the history and legacy of Agape. We hope that you would be blessed by this podcast series.
Hi guys. Okay, so welcome to the first episode of the Agape podcast. Very honored to have Pastor Guna here with us to actually answer some of the burning questions that some of us actually have lah. Okay, so very simple. The very first question is, how was Agape Baptist Church planted?
All right. Agape Baptist Church came out of International Baptist Church. I wonder if you knew that. A group of us were having a Bible class right after the Sunday service. International Baptist Church was expat church primarily. So there were a number of us young people at that time, who were local. Either we were Singaporean or Malaysian. And then we would gather after the service to have a Bible study. And the Bible study was ran by and taught by Lily Rogers, who was a Southern Baptist missionary. At that time, it was called the Southern Baptist Convention that sent them. And she would then, run the Bible study. So what happened was that group kind of grew quite a bit, or maybe about 30 people. I was part of that. I think that the only two people here right now who were part of that joy class at that time is Julia, who is sitting right there, and I think it's Sofan. Are you here, Sofan? Yeah, these are all very shy, yeah. Sofan, you were part of the joy class as well, were you? Or you came to the church, but you didn't attend joy class? Yeah, that time you're not interested in Bible study. It was true. Yeah, it was true. And she was courting a young man by the name of Roger Tang. Yeah, at that time. And I remember that we used to see them at the Sunday service by inviting them to come to joy class, but they never did. Yeah. Yeah. So, but Julia was a part of that. So I think in that group, that was all there is. And I remember very clearly that one afternoon we were sitting down for lunch, and we were just musing with the idea that, what, it'd be nice if we became our own church. That would be quite fun. And I remember Miss Rogers took note of that and said that I think that's a very good idea. And that's how we started. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So any obstacles you actually faced during the planting of the church itself?
So what happened was, of course, the obstacles was like, first of all, we needed a place to start our worship services. I remember we launched our first worship service in the Easter of 1984. How many of you were alive at that time or living? Yeah, there are quite a number of you. Yeah, Easter of 1984 at Equatorial Hotel, which has already closed down. There is no such hotel right now. So we held our first service then. Right after that service, the weekly services were held in the afternoon at Linkwang Baptist Church, which is still there at Bukit Timah Road. And then we moved to Garden Hotel in Balmoral Road, which is that hotel is no longer there as well. That's way back long ago, yeah.
Okay, so Agape actually has quite a long history, outlived many places. Mm-hmm. And so...
That's right. Outlived many places.
Yeah, so good to know we are still here, right? And so how was Agape like when it first started? has it always been a Baptist church or?
Yeah. We are a Baptist church.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just had to ask that question to make
Yeah.
it clear lah for all.
Okay, yeah. We have always, in the way that, we have always been a Baptist church, yeah.
Okay, and so who are other significant people involved in the planting?
Yeah.
On top of.
So, in terms of the leadership at that time, I think that we had, there were three of us leaders in the church, and who were also trained to be preachers. There was me, and there was another guy by the name of Shu Hao Beng, and then Ronnie Ko. Ronnie Ko went on to become to join FCBC after some time, and then he went on to become a missionary in Central Asia. Shu Hao Beng went on to be the pastor of another church plant called Agape Baptist Church, and then, of course, I was left with Agape Baptist Church. Yeah.
Lucky to have you. Okay, and so Lily O. Rogers actually had a very huge part to play, right,
Yes.
in Agape. Can you maybe give us a very brief
So-
or in-depth, up to you,
Yeah.
on how she actually...
Yeah. So Lily Rogers had lived in Singapore by the time we planted the church, was for about 30 years then. She would have been when we planted the church, probably reaching her 60s. All right. And she had before that planted a couple more churches like Lincoln Baptist Church, Sembawang Baptist Church, Thompson Road Baptist Church, and the last church that she helped in the planting process. She would never say that she was the church planter, but I think that she was the driving force behind it. She organized the leadership. She critiqued our preaching every Sunday. She ensured that she looked at our order of service. She looked at the ministry designed, and guided us throughout, in the whole process of the church plant, and deeply influential, a woman of prayer, a woman who is passionate about evangelism. She brought many people to Christ herself. And our church, if you talk about, there was another group of people who actually joined the Joy class in the formation of the church. And there was another Bible study that she was leading among older women. And a part of that became Agape's legacy as well. Like people like Mrs. Lim and Mrs. Fay and Mac Chua, and all of that older group of people that now we don't see anymore because some of them passed away. But those of you who have been here for many years knew them and knew their ministry with our church and all of that. She was the one who actually discipled that group of ladies and all that, had to become a part of the church as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Agape Baptist Church was first planted in 1984. Right? And you said that, there was a group of you guys, and eventually you were the only one left with Agape in that group, right? Have you ever thought of leaving? Or what made you stay?
No. This is my church, I think that it was understood among the three of us that I was the main leader, of the group. And I think that the other two also, they have different callings. Like Ronnie had always wanted to become a missionary, and so I think going to FCBC afforded him the opportunity to then enter into the mission field through the church. I think Shu Ha Beng always wanted to pastor another church. And so he went on. I always felt like my calling is to this church, and so I remain,
And any difficulties we face as a church through all these years? What was one most memorable experience or obstacles that you actually had to go through?
Well, Wow. It was never easy. I mean, it was. If you're talking about, I mean, there were, of course, at every stage of the church, they were challenges. There were many challenges. But I think the biggest challenge for me was what happened in 2001.
Yeah, I was already born, yeah.
Yeah. Am I right with that time frame? 2001. Was that 2001? Huh? 2000. It's 2000. It was 2000? Yeah. When the church actually experienced a crisis and a whole group of people left the church. And it was, that was a very difficult time, not just for me, but for everyone who remained. And it was a very confusing time for all of us. I doubted my own leadership. I wondered whether I was still called to the church. I wondered whether, there was a time when I wondered whether I should, maybe like I have lost my credibility with the church and I should actually step out. Yeah, it was, it kind of, but that shaped a lot of things that went after that, because our church, building up to that point, was a church that was really, we were doing a lot for the community. We were a community taking church. We ran conferences. I think we kind of drove the people to a point of exhaustion with all the ministry that was involved in community taking. And I think that led to a chorus of complaints that probably I did not give enough attention to, that led some of the people to leave. And then it caused me to reevaluate exactly what a church should be about. That started me on a journey of wondering of what does it take, for lives to be changed, and I think I would say that the beginning of my gospel journey actually started there. But I was then searching, then we did, we kind of slowed down all our work with the community. I decided to take the church into a discipleship journey. Where and then I discovered that that is not. It looked more like a program than something that would actually go deeper to change the lives of the people, and that finally led me to rediscover the gospel. That actually changed everything for me, my life, and the church. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Okay, so at a point of time where you even doubted your own leadership, right? How did God touch you in a way, or how did God actually lead you to? I'm very sure that He was there to tell you that, okay, it's time for you to reevaluate, take a step back, because you even doubted. So there might be a chance that you actually were thinking of leaving.
Not really leaving. I felt responsible for what had happened, and that actually kept me going. But actually, the thought did come for the first time in my life, in my whole ministry. By that time, I was pastoring the church for about maybe 18 to 20 years already. Yeah. But the thought came to me, and I was surprised at the very thought, because I've never ever thought of quitting, or I always thought that I would. That I will actually die pastoring this church. That was what I thought, And I was completely given to that and prepared for that. But that time it was so dark, and it shook everyone. It shook me the most, because I didn't expect that to happen. And when it did happen, of course, it shook me, and it caused me to reevaluate everything. Yeah, reevaluate my ministry, reevaluate my preaching, reevaluate my own walk with God. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad everything worked out, right? So what is something about Agape now that you have never imagined was possible when a church was first planted?
Yeah. Wow. What in Agape now that I never imagined possible when it was just first planted. Of course, I never imagined that I would actually, that the trajectory of my own life will change. I never imagined that. Like, I like what I said, I thought that I will probably pastor this church until I die, Yeah. But the Lord changed that trajectory, and and it was I think a very good thing, so that younger leaders could rise up. Can you imagine that if I had continued to be the senior pastor of this church until I am 75, and then people will be like none will be 50 years old, so it'll be almost like a Prince Charles situation. So it was a good thing that happened, that I could step out and take on another ministry, so that the younger generation could rise up and take the church forward, for another 30, 40 years. But I never imagined that would happen, number one. The second thing is, let me say it this way. Last week, when my granddaughter came to our house, I was lying down on my couch. If you have been to my house, there is a huge couch called the Papasan. It has been there for 30 years. It has been refurbished like 3 times, but it is a key feature in my living room. It is one of those Raman things that will probably be inherited by one of my children, because it holds a lot of memories. So I was lying down on that, and my granddaughter came up to me and lied on my chest. She just lied on my chest. And it was like, it just brought me back to about 30 years before, when my own children would lie on my chest on that same couch. So this is the same house. We have lived in the same house all these years. Same house. The pulpit, but now I'm listening to somebody else preaching from the pulpit. It's the same church. It's the same location, but it's a different generation. And the reflection is that I go away saying, from generation to generation, the faithfulness of the Lord never changes. And I think that is what I never thought would be possible when I first, was planting the church, that I would live to see this in my lifetime and enjoy the fact that God's faithfulness is from one generation to another generation to another generation, and oh, how great His faithfulness. Yeah.
Amen. Yes. Wow. While I was listening to that, I was really in awe as well. And I was just, amen, 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 the entire time. So now, I would actually like to open up to the floor. If you guys have any question, feel free to raise your hands. Anyone has any question that you would like to ask? Yeah, over there.
Oh, hey, hi. My name's Thomas. I had two questions. Really appreciate all the sharing. One is, Pastor Guna, what would you feel is Lily O. Rogers' legacy for Agape? Besides the LOR room, what would you feel like would be her legacy for Agape? And the second one is, when did you feel called into ministry? Was there a turning point, or was there a moment when you feel like God has called me and I want to be a pastor for the rest of my life?
So the first question is, what is the legacy I would like to see left behind? What is Lily O. Rogers' legacy? All right. That we see in Agape today. All right. Yeah. I think that Lily O. Rogers was if people remember Lily O. Rogers, they would remember her to be an epitome of deep faith in God that found its expression primarily in prayer, number one. And then number two was the fact that she, it's almost like she does not, like every challenge and obstacle, God will lead a way out of it. There was just that tenacity, that resilience to be able to push through all of that, And I mean, I think that as the generations move on, as we move from, I think there's already been 3 generations, from Lily Rogers right now, and the thing about the tenacity, the resilience, the church has been through a lot. It has been through so much, those of you who have been with us for a long time, we just been through so very much. But I think that through all those seasons we come through, and that there's still that tenacity, that resilience, that dependency on God, that depth of faith, that keeps us going, is I guess is something that we probably inherited from her. Yeah. When did I get my calling? I think it was during college days in university, that kind of time that when I got the calling, I knew that I would be a pastor. I remember telling my girlfriend then that, I will become a pastor one day. Do you still want to marry me? And it's like, because in those days, I understand, pastors don't get paid very much. I think now they don't get paid very much either, don't they, Andrew? Yeah. But I feel like a little bit more than when we used to get paid. Yeah. So I used to ask her and say, I told her that, I'll be a pastor, so we will not be very rich. Is that okay with you? And all of that. And then she said that, yeah, that's fine. I thought at that time that, she was just a little bit dizzy about who I am, and that she was just saying that because, I didn't quite believe her, she said, it's okay, like, oh, I'll marry you for anything, kind of thing. That was my own egocentric thinking. Yeah, maybe it was like, but that's what, so I told her that I'll be a pastor one day. That was way before. If you know my history, I came to teach school here, and I taught for 8 years. Stefan was my colleague all those 8 years, yeah, and then at the end of that I left, and then the church was already planted, but we couldn't do both. I couldn't do a bivocational stuff because the church was it was too demanding. So we had to make a choice of either continuing with my trajectory in the education line or leave and become a full-time pastor. So at that time, my daughter was 2 years old. We just had a newborn baby, as in Reuben, and so I had to make that faith decision, to kind of leave and then take on. That was in 1990, and then I took on and became the full-time pastor of the church. So, but the calling came way back before that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Mrs. Yeah.
Hello. It's about the style of worship. I think I can feel it, from that time, 1985, 86. I was there, and it seems the the agape is changing. You know, the style of worship is so hot and charm, you know. Everyone got to, praise to the Lord, and that you have to change the devil away, you know. Everyone slaying and everything, worship. It's a kind of it's like explosive, you know, of agape to change. But nowadays it seems very old, you know. You tend to just wake up in the morning, and then all of a sudden you come here, and then you try with a big heart to listen to the pulpit, and all of a sudden it just dying a bit, it cool down a little bit, and then you're going to wake up again and listen. I think there is a sort of a, you know, like waving is different. I think I like the beginning of the agape. It's more job, and then everyone clap, and then dance, and everything. You know, it wakes you up. Don't you think so?
Thank you, Mrs. Yap. Okay, let me just tell you a little bit about Mrs. Yap, because since Mrs. Yap came to join us in 1985. Yes. And the church was started in 1984. She came with the whole family. She had 2 daughters who were then 3 plus 1 son. Yeah, 3 of them. They came to the church in Garden Hotel, right? I remember. Mrs. Yap was the one who designed the Agape logo. I think we should give credit to you for that. So, yeah. So to answer your question, Mrs. Yap, I think that, worship styles change over time. The worship of God doesn't change, you know. So I think that over time, and the different generations have got different styles of worship. The important thing is that they know that God is worship. I'm sure that we can do a little bit of vibrance in our own worship right here, and I think that the staff team are actually encouraging us to be able to do that. Even yesterday, and I think in the camp, if we could just give a bit more energy and zest and life to worship the Lord. You know, nobody is a loser. You know, God gets glorified, we get edified. You know, and we can all do that, right? Yeah. But the important thing is that, that we are not addicted to a hype of it. That we are truly worshiping God from the heart, and that that we that the sense of awe and reverence for the Lord is not because of the style, but because of God.
Okay. Any more questions from the floor? Okay, great. So, thank you for all the questions. So before we end, there are a few questions. There are just maybe 1 or 2. Oh wait, someone has a question. Hold on. Oh, Jimmy.
Pastor Guna, can you share with us how this church started to become a gospel center church, or gospel center focused church?
That's my favorite question. I wish somebody would ask. Yeah. All right. As I told you, the year 2000 was a year where we were all shaken, and many good friends left the church, and it was like a big surprise. It caused me to reevaluate my own life and my own ministry and all of that. And it was a very, very long journey. I didn't know what I was searching for. But there was a sense of dissatisfaction in the depth of my heart. Basically, I found that why is it that while I'm preaching the Bible, what I thought I was preaching the Bible, the lives are not being changed. And if a pastor were to preach and lives are not being changed, then he's not successful. And it gripped me, it gripped me deeply. And I was searching. So what what needs to happen to the church? Do I need to put in a proper discipleship program? Do I need to slow down in our activities with the community? Do I need to build more community within the church and more depth, in terms of relationships? What do I do, kind of thing. And I know that right after that, I really went on. I introduced a Wednesday night a class called Soul Refreshment. You guys remember that? Where we studied the Psalms together, because I thought that we were not getting enough of the Word into the lives of the people. So we did that, and then I would have a Saturday class on workshops on marriage and all of that. So I just went on the overdrive in order to kind of like deepen the people in the Word, because I thought that was what was lacking in the years when we were taking the community. The people were just physically exhausted and spiritually malnourished, and therefore now this has to change. But even that did not bring about what I dreamt as transformation from the deep within that I wanted to see in the lives of the people. And that was when, lo and behold, that one day that I was, our son Reuben was doing had a 3-month exchange program with in Harvard at Boston, and our daughter had just graduated and wanted to visit New York, And so we, as a graduation trip, and usually they go with everybody else, but she wanted to go with her parents. So that was okay. So we went and we met as a family, and Reuben came from Boston to New York, and we were in New York City. And it was Saturday night, and I was frantically looking for a church to go to on a Sunday morning, because, I felt like we should go to church on Sunday, although my children didn't think so. But yeah. Don't waste another day. Let's go see New York, But no, we must go to church. And the church that came up was Redeemer Presbyterian Church. And I was never interested in going to a Presbyterian church, all right? So, but anyway, we went to Redeemer Presbyterian Church. I haven't heard of the name Tim Keller before. And this was in 2010, all right? And when they said in the service, wasn't very impressed. Somebody else preached, not Tim Keller. He wasn't there that day, and went up to the fellowship hall after that, because they gave free coffee and donuts and all that. And New York's expensive, so you can get something free, just get it. Yeah. So and then I saw a series of books that was just on display. By Tim Keller. So this is a senior pastor and all of that. So I picked up one of the books, Counterfeit God. I was, and started reading it in the trip, and then suddenly realized, oh my goodness, I missed the gospel. I don't really have a depth of understanding of the gospel. I came back to Singapore. I used to go into the staff room, to the staff, and tell them, I don't think I know the gospel enough. And Sok Hui and Jessica will go, huh? And I say, if you don't know the gospel, then what about us? And stuff like that. And they didn't quite understand what I was talking about. Like, say, I don't have that. There's what is missing is that I don't understand the gospel enough. I haven't applied it deeply into my life. I didn't see it as the A to Z or Z of my life. I just saw it as the ABC of my life. And I kind of marginalized the gospel. Yeah, it was not central. Now that was the year 2000, and then I started picking up Tim Keller's book and started reading Prodigal God, and started reading his other books, listening to his sermons, and wowed by his sermons, but not knowing how exactly he makes all the connections, whether he preaches from the Old Testament or New Testament, always bring it back to Jesus and bring it the gospel. It's like, I want to do that, but I do not know how to do that. And that is when I told my board members at that time, he said, would you let me to go to New York for 3 months on a sabbatical? and go to Redeemer Presbyterian Church and sit under Tim Keller. And then during that time also do my own studies on how I could preach Christ-centered, gospel-centered sermons that preaches to the heart. And that was my mission, and that's where I went in 2012. And then Pastor Tom was the one who took over the church at that time for those 3 months that I was away, 3-4 months away. And I came back and vowed that I'm going to preach gospel-centered sermons, and that's what I did. And I started to learn how to do that. And I did that week after week after week until people thought that some of the pushbacks that I would have is like, why is every week about the gospel? How come, that kind of a thing. But that was when, and then we started Camp Prodigal. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, where I got everyone reading Prodigal God. It was somewhere in JB. Do you remember that Camp Prodigal is where we put up all the fruits? That you could just take all the fruits. And what Pastor Nan said, yes, huh? Malacca, was it Malacca? Yeah. That was when, like what Pastor Nan mentioned yesterday, as he opened his sermon, is that church camps are all milestones. It kind of shapes the life of the church and the direction of the church. And it did, that particular one. That was in 2013, after I came back from my sabbatical. And that was when the journey started. And then I began to see lives being changed. I began to see marriages changing. I began to see that, like people were serving God, not to get rewards from God, but serving God for God. The amount of complaints began to people, there was a change, there was a depth, in the lives of the people and all that. And I felt like if this can happen to Agape Baptist Church, it can happen to any church. And that was when the conviction, the passion grew in me that I wanted to see gospel-centered churches planted all over the world. And when I was given the offer to be the CEO of Cities Asia Pacific, I said, that gives me the opportunity. If I see that happen in Agape, it can happen everywhere. And I wanted to pour my life into this. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think that was very insightful, especially for people who actually joined the church new, myself included. So I only joined 3 years back. And I do see the similarity between how we have Buzz and Bond, the books for the newcomer, and also how from the first time you actually went to the Presbyterian church, right? Yeah, and that's how you found out that in an indirect way, God was actually speaking to you to tell you that we are lacking in gospel knowledge, right? Yeah. So last question: as the founding pastor of Agape Baptist Church, what is something that you are most thankful for about the church, and how do you see us in the next 10 years?
Yeah. What I'm most thankful for, I think I'm very thankful for the fact that this church is a church filled with grace. I feel like there's so much graciousness in the church. We are accepting of people, of all kinds of people. We are forgiving. I see the grace of the Lord just manifesting in different times and different ways. And I feel very proud about that for Agape and feel very blessed that we are a very gracious church. The other thing is that it is a very generous church. I'm really astounded by the generosity of this church. I mean, I can remember certain occasions, like the time when we had a situation when a brother in Philippines was having a heart attack and had to be flown out. And how so suddenly, within 24 hours, we raised $50,000, to bring him home and save his life. And I think that is just amazing generosity. The church has never had a lack as a result of that, like always responding, in such a generous way. I think that's just so beautiful to have, to be part of a church that is not just gracious, but generous. And I think the third thing I'm very grateful for is the gospel. and the way that many of us embrace the gospel, love the gospel, and if you ask me what are my hopes for 10 years, that is for the next generation of leaders to actually envision. But I do not want to see that this church loses its gospel age. And I dream that in 10 years' time that the preaching of the gospel Sunday after Sunday would not change, but will get stronger and stronger, and the whole new generation will rise up. Churches will be planted, like what Pastor Nan called for yesterday. The church will be planted. They will be gospel-centered. They may be different from Agape in its expression, because it is for a different demography, maybe for a different group of people. It may be different from Agape, but the DNA will remain. That the gospel DNA will continue to remain. And I think that if 20, 30 years from now, I would have gone home to be with the Lord. And that if the church continues with that, with the gospel DNA, I think what my generation has sought to do would be accomplished. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. So we have come to the end of the Agape podcast. I hope that we have been able to find out a little bit more about our legacy. And so thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you, Indy. Yeah, thank you, guys.